Welcome to Movie Rehash. Today, I'm going to explain a thriller, fantasy movie released in 2020, titled, Fantasy Island. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie begins on an island where a lady named Sloane Madison is trying to escape from someone. She calls the island's owner, Mr. Rourke, for assistance, and he tells her that he will send help. Unfortunately, Sloane gets captured by the person chasing her. Afterward, a plane arrives at Fantasy Island, carrying many guests. Mr. Rourke's assistant Julia welcomes them. Some of the guests include Melanie Cole, Gwen Olsen, Patrick Sullivan, and stepbrothers, JD and Brax Weaver. Julia explains that their biggest dreams can come true, but they must play out naturally. A man named Damon observes the guests from a distance. Once the guests become acquainted, Julia starts guiding them to their fantasies. After that, Mr. Rourke comes and officially welcomes them. He leads JD and Brax to a never-ending party, where JD enjoys the company of attractive women, and Brax hangs out with good-looking men while having some weed. While they're having fun, Brax spots what seems like a ghostly figure of a severely burned man. The following morning, Gwen has a conversation with Mr. Rourke, who asks her questions about her past. Then, she's taken to her fantasy, which is a restaurant where she had previously turned down a marriage proposal from her ex-boyfriend to follow her career aspirations. In this fantasy, she meets her ex-boyfriend, Alan. Gwen realizes that he's a real person who has been included in her fantasy, which makes her feel sorry for him. Nevertheless, she enjoys rekindling their connection, and when Alan proposes once more, she decides to say yes. Melanie confides in Patrick about her personal fantasy, which is to get back at her former school bully. Mr. Rourke then takes her to a basement, where she discovers Sloane tied up behind a two-way mirror. Initially, Melanie thinks Sloane is just a hologram and proceeds to mistreat her by using an electric shock and pouring toilet water on her. She even records a video of Sloane with another man, which she shares on Facebook for her husband to see. Then, the computer calls Sloane's husband, and Melanie realizes that Sloane is actually there, and she tries to prevent her from further harm. A man dressed like a surgeon enters, resembling a doctor who used to terrify Melanie, known as Dr. Torture. He prepares to use a buzz saw on Sloane's arm, but Melanie uses the cattle prod and toilet water to electrocute Dr. Torture, freeing Sloane. To conceal her actions, Melanie pretends to be just another guest so that Sloane doesn't realize she was behind the torment. Patrick is taken to his fantasy, which takes him back to a war setting in the 1980s, where he reunites with his father, who had died in action. In this scenario, Patrick gets captured by other soldiers. Meanwhile, JD and Brax are playing with various weapons and explosives in their mansion, unaware that they're causing a commotion. The soldiers nearby hear this and get into a firefight with enemies in their area. JD and Brax soon discover that the mansion belongs to a dangerous man named Kulishov, and a group of his armed henchmen is approaching. Melanie and Sloane venture into the dark forest in search of a way to escape the island. Dr. Torture finds them again and launches an attack, but they are rescued by Damon, who impales the surgeon with his machete. Damon explains that he was initially a private investigator who came to the island as a guest with a fantasy to reunite with his deceased daughter. However, his dream turned into a nightmare, and he became trapped there. Damon also reveals that Mr. Rourke had given the guests special magic water that makes their fantasies come true. The three of them decide to find a phone to call for help and fill a canteen with some of the magic water, but when they gaze into the water fountain, they see the other guests' fantasies. Sloane's fantasy is to reconcile with her husband, while Melanie's fantasy is to torment Sloane. This revelation leads Sloane to realize that Melanie had lied about being a guest and gives Melanie an opportunity to express her anger towards Sloane for the way she treated her. Mr. Sullivan approaches Patrick after discovering a photo of himself with his own son in his purse. He discloses that the child in the photo is him as a youngster, and Patrick is his son. Even though Patrick provides details only the two of them could know, Mr. Sullivan remains unconvinced that Patrick will take any action to prevent his impending fate. This fate involves Mr. Sullivan getting into a life-threatening situation during a hostage rescue mission in Venezuela, scheduled for the following day. Gwen wakes up to a surprising reality: she's already married to Alan, and they have a 5-year-old daughter named Lila. This is not what she had in mind for her fantasy. In her quest to change it, Gwen seeks out Mr. Rourke and talks to Julia. She explains that her original fantasy was to go back in time and save someone from a fire she had caused. Mr. Rourke reveals that his own fantasy was to reunite with his deceased wife, but he can only continue experiencing it if he helps the guests fulfill their fantasies. Initially, Rourke is reluctant to change Gwen's fantasy, but Gwen persuades him by pointing out that he can only see his wife if he allows her to have her desired fantasy. The chief thug of Kulishov questions JD and Brax regarding some money that is believed to be in the mansion. The stepbrothers attempt to deceive the thugs by claiming that the money is in the garage, where their weapons are stored. Meanwhile, Gwen steps into her new fantasy, taking her to a burning building. She spots JD and Brax making a quick escape. Determined to rescue the victim, Nick Taylor, she tries to enter the blazing apartment. Gwen rushes outside to seek assistance and encounters Patrick, as a cop. However, he doesn't immediately help because he's waiting for the firefighters. Gwen returns inside but loses consciousness until Julia discovers her. Patrick and the soldiers reach the location of the hostage situation, which turns out to be the mansion. JD and Brax put up a fight against some of the thugs, and Patrick joins in to help eliminate them. However, a grim twist occurs: the thugs return as zombies. Tragically, JD and Mr. Sullivan, Patrick's father, lose their lives, and neither Brax nor Patrick can do anything to save them. Melanie, Sloane, and Damon face an attack from the zombie Dr. Torture, who once more targets Sloane. In a brave act, Damon sacrifices himself by pushing both himself and the surgeon off a cliff. Left on their own, the women return to the torture room to reach a phone. Sloane calls her husband, apologizing for her deception and using it as a way to apologize to Melanie as well. They then contact Damon's associates to seek help for their escape. As the situation escalates, the guests are gathered to confront Mr. Rourke and his associates about the twisted fantasies. They realize that all of their fantasies are tied to a person named Nick who seems to wish them harm. Gwen recalls that she accidentally started the fire that killed Nick by leaving a kettle on in her apartment. Patrick was present at the fire scene but didn't help. JD was Nick's roommate and wanted to check on him, but Brax persuaded him to leave. Melanie had plans to date Nick that evening, but she fell ill and cancelled. Had she been with him, he might not have died. In an attempt to escape, they race to board a plane, but the aircraft is shot down by the thugs. The group hides and speculates that Julia might be Nick's grieving mother seeking revenge. Determined to end the ordeal, they decide to destroy Mr. Rourke's fountain, hoping to stop the nightmarish fantasies once and for all. The group ventures into the cave to locate the fountain, but they're attacked by manifestations of their deepest fears. Sloane encounters her bully self, while Patrick confronts the spirits of people he couldn't save. Gwen envisions Lila killing Alan, and Nick's ghost appears before her but doesn't recognize Julia when Gwen mentions her. After a fierce struggle, Melanie appears before Patrick and starts attacking him. Meanwhile, the others reach the fountain with the intent to destroy it using a grenade, but Mr. Rourke intervenes. He reveals that Julia was his wife, and he doesn't want to stop seeing her after her passing. A shocking twist is unveiled: they are all trapped in Melanie's fantasy. Her deepest desire was to go out with Nick that night, but her insecurity stemming from Sloane's bullying made her stand him up. Rourke realizes that Julia is on the brink of succumbing to her illness once more and decides it's time to let her go for good. He goes to assist the others. Sloane still needs to fulfill her fantasy. She drinks from the canteen and wishes for Melanie and Nick to be together. Nick's zombie emerges from the fountain and drags Melanie inside, causing the other zombies to vanish. She quickly reappears, attempting to toss the grenade back, but Patrick sacrifices himself by leaping onto it to save everyone. The next morning, Gwen, Sloane, and Brax are getting ready to leave the island. Mr. Rourke informs Brax that since he had only experienced JD's fantasy, he still has one left. Brax wishes for JD to return home alive, but the catch is that Brax would have to remain on the island. Accepting this, Brax allows JD to leave on the plane with Gwen and Sloane. As they part, Brax shares the nickname JD had for him, Tattoo. Choosing to stay behind, Brax takes on the role of Mr. Rourke's new assistant. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe for more interesting movie recaps.